Hello, Dr. G here from naturalfoodsdiet.org. Today's topic is a little bit about my personal story and a report on my new fashion statement. But first off, I want to thank the emergency department and the neurosurgery service and staff at the University Medical Center here in Tucson. Now, I'm sorry about the weak voice, but the intubation I had recently kind of roughed up my vocal cords a little bit. So I'm a little raspy. So here's my story. About two weeks ago, I developed a mild headache. It was right here in the sinus area. Now the headache was unusual for me, but I was noticing it was extremely common in my practice, so I didn't think that much of it. I'd been having all kinds of patients in my practice complaining of sinus headaches, and I just supposed that that's what I was having. I was also sneezing quite a bit, and we've had really high pollen counts here in Arizona. So it's not unusual for me to develop a little bit of hay fever during high pollen season. Well, this past Thursday, I was going out to help my son Gabe move out of his dorm. We loaded his stuff, and Gabe kept saying, "Dad, you're moving so slow, and you're really not that much help. I'd do better on my own." Well, I didn't think anything was seriously wrong, but I did notice that I was grazing objects that were on my left, like when I'd go through a door jamb or when I'd walk by a light pole. Now at this point, I briefly considered the possibilities. Maybe I was having a sinus infection expanding into the brain. I was having a stroke, a brain tumor. But I wasn't having that much pain, and the symptoms seemed fairly mild. And my son Robbie was about to graduate from college. So I thought, heck, I'll get evaluated after the big weekend. Now on Saturday evening, on graduation day, I made it up to the U of A Stadium where the ceremony was taking place. I was with Charlie, a good friend of mine who's also a doc. As the evening progressed, my symptoms also progressed, and my left side became weaker and weaker. I was beginning to stumble, and then Charlie said, "I think we need to get you over to the emergency department." Since we were on campus, University Medical Center was just across the street. But it was a scary thought. I mean, think about it. Soon I would find out which of the life-threatening disease processes was lurking in my head. Now, as we walked down out of the stadium, Charlie was staring at my left hand. So I took a look down at it. And my left hand had become the pose of the claw of a velociraptor. Now, we were standing right next to an ambulance at the moment. So I glanced over and I thought, heck, I can walk another 400 meters. Then I started thinking about all of my work on this YouTube channel, the Natural Foods Diet, and the preventive aspects of my practice. I've been pushing people in a certain direction. And I was beginning to wonder, is it the wrong direction? You know, all these health promoting lifestyles that I not only recommend, but I practice myself. I wanted to be a good role model. But could it be I was wrong? That my lifestyle was leading me toward the degenerative conditions that are rampant in our society, like strokes, brain tumors, and the susceptibility to infectious diseases. Well, I was about to find out. So in the emergency room, there was no doubt I was having major neurological symptoms. They immediately placed me on a stroke protocol as the left side of my body was extremely weak. And everyone's assuming I'm having a stroke. But 30 minutes later, my CT scan was back. And with one glance, I was so relieved. Yes, I had a massive subdural hematoma that had pushed my brain over to the left side of my cranium, but it wasn't a stroke, and it wasn't a brain tumor. Now the question came up, did I have any recent trauma? So I thought back to my head first bike crash I had in El Tour de Tucson way back in November. Then I remembered the headache I had after a January snowboarding crash. And then how about that ass over tea kettle incident on a trail run that I had 3 weeks ago? The CT scan showed that the bleed was old. So if I had to bet any money, I would say it was a snowboarding crash. Why did it suddenly progress to stroke symptoms? Due to the increasing pressure, intracranial pressure, that raises above the blood pressure, so then the brain isn't getting blood flow, so it acts just like a stroke. So after they found this out, I was advised to have emergency surgery to remove the blood. In less than 24 hours, I had had a bilateral craniotomy, and thus my new do. Hey, how do you like that? And yes, I have a few new battle scars. But everything went well, and here I sat one day out of the hospital. I'd never before spent the night in the hospital as a patient, and I'd never had a surgical procedure. This experience leaves me with an incredible respect for mainstream medicine and the amazing systems in place to make a diagnosis and to treat severe injuries. Now, I know I put doctors and medicine down a lot, and that's because I believe the healthcare system has been built with the wrong priorities. And that means that much of the progress that we could enjoy has been stymied, especially for searching for the causes of disease and for preventing disease. Overall, we aren't doing a good job of impacting the common chronic diseases because we ignore the cause. But I'm so thankful that these people are there. I'm thankful for the neurosurgeons, doctors, nurses, techs, janitors, cooks, and all the others that stay up all night, taking pressure off people's brains and ultimately saving their lives. Now, I realize I've been given a second chance, and I'm so overjoyed. Now, in my N=1 study of myself, I don't think my lifestyle has any detrimental effects, except, of course, my risky behaviors I've had since childhood. You know, always wanting to be on the edge, skiing down Mount McKinley in Alaska, climbing high altitude peaks in the Himalaya solo, and then running across the Grand Canyon and back in one huge push. You know, crazy stuff like that. Now, the medical team at the hospital commented on how fast my recovery was. The ER physicians said that they never saw a person with such a large bleed come in walking and talking. My vital signs were always perfect. My blood tests were normal, except my high cholesterol, which I insist is normal as well. Yes, I did injure my brain. Yes, it's going to take a lot of DHA, good sleep, rest, sunlight, pure water, cold therapy, limiting non-native EMF exposure, natural foods, and a low artificial light exposure to completely heal my brain. But the scary symptoms that were happening before, like my left-sided weakness and my perception problems, have completely resolved. I'm truly thankful for all the support I've had through this ordeal, especially from my wife Rena and my 3 sons, all of my amazing friends and co-workers, my patients and followers on my channel. A special thanks to all you guys that hung out in the surgery waiting room, waiting for me, the news, to see if I survived. Now, I want you to know I appreciate the love expressed. So yes, I can say I believe the lifestyle works, and I can still say it's the best way to avoid the epidemic of chronic diseases. But it's not going to replace wearing a helmet when you bump your noggin. And there's always a risk. There is the possibility of having too many healthy behaviors causing a problems and masking the symptoms of a potentially life-threatening injury. So in a convoluted way, you could say my lifestyle has some risks, and I'm not talking about the on-the-edge stuff. I thank God for my second chance. I promise to make good use of the additional time that I've been given. This is Dr. G. Thanks so much for listening, and please subscribe to our channel.